Hello, rail fans and model railroaders. As you might have seen by the intro, it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot's changed unless you have a keen eye. Basically, this week, all I did was focus on buildings. The only scenery that I did was gluing some of the stuff that I knocked out of place back into place. The one building that most of my work was focused on is this building right here. I still have a couple of touch-ups to do because I knocked a couple things off when I was messing with the conveyor. And, you know, it's not finished yet, but it's like 75% done. As you can see, I have all of the glaze. Well, you might not actually be able to see the glazing installed, but I have all the glazing installed. I have these Woodland Scenics Just Plug lights hanging here, and I have the painting done. It didn't come out quite as contrasty as I wanted, but I'm okay with it. I think it looks good regardless. Got a couple of spots to touch up, like inside of the windows here, but I'll do that later. Got the roof installed and weathered a little bit. I really don't like this stuff, so I may come back through and put a different type of roofing on there. You can see these parts right here look like brass. The kit comes with plastic pieces. However, in the process of very gingerly cutting them out, they just fell apart. They basically crumbled on me, so I had to make them out of brass. And that got me started on making a bunch of other things out of brass, which I think turned out pretty good. I'll get to those in a moment. Put that back over there. Here's the other building that I did. It's this little warehouse, this Trackside Warehouse. I don't think really fits too well in this diorama, but it's what I was provided, so I made it look as best I can. My whole thought behind this thing is it's just a storage warehouse for bagged coal. You could still buy bags of coal for heating your house and whatnot, and basically my idea is that this facility packs those up and ships them out to the local community. Basically, I made all of these little pallets with the bags of coal on them. Still need to figure out how to put some writing of some sort on there, whether or not it's decal or I do it by hand. We'll see. Another thing that I created, well, not created, but put together is this old-time conveyor. These conveyors aren't really used too much anymore. Basically, they go under a rail car right here, and they will dump the coal out onto it, and then it will load it in a truck. My idea is that this yard keeps it around because if they need to unload a broken car for some reason, or they need to load a truck, and one of the tractors is, down for some reason, or, even I could design it so that there's an attachment on here that allows them to fill the bags. I haven't quite come up with why they would be filling these bags or how they would be filling these bags. Don't know if they're doing it by hand or, by machinery, etc. But basically this will just be parked off to the side the whole time until they need it on those rare occasions. So now we're onto the coal flood loader. Really all that I did with this one was weather it, and then I added a bunch of conduit to it. I felt that it needed a lot more conduit, and I probably still am going to go purchase more brass wire to make even more conduit. You can see over here, I've added some conduit coming up from the ground. That's going to be power or control circuitry, something like that. But also I'm going to have a bunch of conduit come down the conveyor here along the side and have it come down to the conveyor building down here, the conveyor entry building. As you can see, I still have tape on it because when I glued this top on, it just kept popping off, so I've gone a little bit crazy with the super glue. So I think you can kind of see it in here, a little bit. But I added coal. The idea here is it's a little bit bigger than it probably would be prototypically, but I wanted you to be able to see it and kind of get this idea in your head of what should be in there, even though, it's kind of obvious by the rest of the whole diorama. But I'm using selective expansion. Model railroaders will use selective compression quite a lot. But you don't really ever hear the term selective expansion, where they make things kind of bigger than they are just to kind of give you this idea of, larger scale. It's used quite often, but you don't hear people talk about it that way. Another thing that I did was add more conduit up over in here and into the control booth. It's kind of hard to see in the shadowing. But I put this little detector array here. But I'm modeling this scene after the coal flood loader in Raven, Kentucky, and they have, a couple of just trackside detectors there of some sort. Not sure if they're reading the car's number or if they're just reading the number of cars or the start and stop points on there. Not really sure what it does, but I've modeled it anyway. All right, let's try this again. Got to hold my cat because he won't be quiet otherwise. Say hi, Skrinkle. Oh, giant there. All right, well, the other thing that I've done is I finally cut the hole in the side of the coal flood loader for the conveyor belt. It doesn't look the greatest, however, I figure out how to kind of fill in this gap up here. Nothing's really glued into place with this yet, so I might be able to just kind of move it around until it fits better. But we'll see. And last but not least, this area. I finished up this building, weathering it anyways. I've got to decide whether or not I want to put lights in it. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of these buildings in the coal yards, they don't seem to have a lot of lights in the actual area out here. Not sure if they work at night. Maybe the tractors are the ones that have the light and they just don't bother lighting the actual yard because it's so huge, and the coal being so dark, it may just be a moot point at that point. Got to decide whether or not I want to do that. I also finally got around to cutting the holes in the stack tower, so I got to figure out how I want to model the rest of that. I don't quite have enough plastic to do it yet, so I think I'm going to have to stop by the train shop and pick some up. Another thing you can see there in the background is some inspiration shots that I found well after I started this project, and it just kind of helps me realize I'm doing things more or less right. That one over there on the right, that one has a conveyor building. It's like where they load all of the coal, they push it into that building, and then it gets loaded into the conveyor and goes up to the rest of the plant. So I felt that was pretty cool to kind of find some justification for what I thought was the procedure or how they do things at certain places. So now I was talking kind of quick through a lot of this. I really just want to get this one out actually on Friday. As you've seen, a lot of my Friday videos kind of got moved to Saturday recently just due to having things that I had to do on Friday. Over the next week or so, I think a lot of what I'm just going to be doing is a lot of the detail work in here. It's kind of to the point that I'm at right now is just detail work, final assembly of buildings, and with the exception, I only have one more thing to actually build. And then I've got to figure out that back area over there and get all the trees installed. I have another 4 weeks to do this at this point. It's due on May 30th. So, I have time. I'm not feeling crunched anymore, but time is also running out. So basically at this point, I want to thank you all for watching. And I also want to apologize for last week's video where the music went really, really loud all of a sudden in numerous points. I had it all straightened out in Adobe Premiere and it sounded really good. However, once I uploaded it to YouTube, they reprocess everything and they brought some of that low background noise way up to the front, and it was kind of distracting by the sounds of it. So we're going to try and not do that this week. If I have any background music, I hope it was low. If it wasn't, just let me know, please. And with that said, I look forward to giving you update number 9 next week. I'll talk to you later. Boulder Creek Yard out.